What's up, y'all? This is back with another reaction, y'all, from the Fat Man's Podcast. I got another reaction for y'all But before we get in this reaction, y'all, please hit that like button and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 800 subscribers by the end of this month, y'all. So please do share with your family, friends, whoever you see. And I'm sorry I didn't post yesterday. Shoot. I just did, and I was tired. And I'm sorry I messed up on the post. For some reason, I don't know, my downloader didn't download the video, because I did react to Charlie Clerk, which I'm gonna post that after this video, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't know why I don't know why. So I had to re-download it and stuff like that, re-edit it and stuff like that. I'm sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, what's getting here, y'all, from I got another Piers Morgan Uncensored. That's the channel, and I will put the original video in the description if y'all guys want to go see the original video without the commentary. And the title of the reaction is Andrew Tate returns to debate Piers Morgan on Elon Musk and free speech. So, if you watched it, why is my camera tweaking like that sometimes? I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know why it does that. I'm upgrading, y'all. This way, I'm upgrading on Black Friday. I'm gonna buy me a whole gaming desktop and all that stuff, y'all. So just you wait, y'all. I got y'all. You get a whole monitor and stuff like that. I might get a new camera with the 4K in and everything. But yeah, so if you've seen the Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan interview, there was a lot. He got destroyed by Piers Morgan. Even though I respect Andrew Tate, I most stuff that he says I align with. I think you got, you know what I mean. But he just Piers Morgan cut him off a lot of times, and you know, sometimes Andrew Tate would backtrack a little bit and stuff like that. But I understand where he's coming from, because he couldn't really get his full sentence or full thought out. But hey, y'all, let's get up in here, y'all. Let's see. Let's get up in here and we'll see what Piers Morgan and Andrew Tate talking about, y'all. All right, y'all.
Tate, whose videos have been viewed billions of times online, but he's been banned from pretty much every mainstream social media platform, including Twitter. Andrew Tate, welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Your take on this, I think, is quite interesting, because you've been a victim of being, if victim's the right word, but you've been removed from social media platforms for your opinions. Elon Musk has dedicated himself, he says, to restoring free speech. Do you think that's going to include you, for example?
I don't think it matters if it includes me or not. I think what's important is that free speech is the #1 weapon against absolute tyranny. And although you cannot have complete free speech, because then conversations completely break down into asinine insult fests, I do like the idea of the changing of the guard when it comes to control over information.
Is it possible, Andrew Tate, to actually police something like Twitter, to be a platform for genuine free speech? Or is it so toxic and tribal now that whatever happens, you know, before we had all the people on the right screaming away that they were being no platformed and so on. Now you've got all the people on the left screaming that they're being diminished in some way. It's very tribal, very toxic. Can Musk cut through that? And if so, how?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult. There's always going to be one group of people who are extremely unhappy, but I think that anybody who's perspicacious enough to understand the truth of what's been going on in the world recently will know that the left and their narratives have certainly been protected for a very long time. And the universe has swings and balances, and God often restores balance to the universe, and perhaps it might swing the other way for a while. I truthfully am a person who believes that all points of view are extremely important, because as soon as you block points of view, you have absolute tyranny.
And in a way, it's sort of self-defeating, isn't it? Because you carried on getting huge attention. It was interesting to me that when you came on the show, for example, we've had, I think, nearly 6 million people have viewed the whole interview that we did, which is a huge number of people, certainly far higher than watched it on conventional television. So you have a whole world out there online which operates away from social media platforms.
Yeah, I've been very, very successful in spite of them, but not many people can do that. I'm in a pretty unique position, but I think that everybody needs a voice to a degree, and social media platforms are now the most important platforms on the planet. They control information, and they influence real-world decisions, and they influence people's perception of reality. The last few years of COVID have been a perfect example of what happens when you censor one side of the argument and you only allow one point of view to be purported by the matrix in and of itself, and that's how you end up in tyrannical situations. I think you were just discussing that, Piers.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfectly valid point. You know, people have quite rightly held me to task over some of the positions I took during the COVID pandemic, notably when the scientists said as a definitive fact that you couldn't transmit the virus if you had the vaccine. It turned out that wasn't true. And I based my observations on that supposed fact and said, right, well, in that case, if you refuse to be vaccinated, you shouldn't get the same rights as people who've been vaccinated. If it's true that if you're unjabbed, you can pass it on. It turned out, actually, there's not much difference whether you've been vaccinated or not. And at that point, I changed my mind. But I felt that there were a lot of people who were being deplatformed from Twitter at the time for questioning the validity of scientific statements, and there would then be a complete U-turn. So I do think it was a very interesting period, actually, for testing what free speech means.
It was actually worse than that. You're right, Piers, but it was actually worse than interesting, because what happens is when you censor an entire side of the argument and only allowed one side of the argument to have a voice, you are changing reality in real time. You are shaping the world. The only reason that scam continued as long as it did, and the only reason people didn't get to see their own parents get buried, and the only reason people sat and missed cancer appointments because they were scared of the common cold, was because they were censoring anybody who said anything contrary to the purported version of events that the mainstream media decided they want the entire world to swallow. It's beyond simply interesting, and it's beyond simply funny or coincidental.
Yeah, I will challenge you on one thing.
All right, y'all, this is the 4-minute mark. Before we get back into it, what Andrew Tate said, I totally agree with. You know what I mean? I think social media has been, you know, it's okay, well, how should I say this? It's the best thing that ever happened to America, or I guess the whole earth, I guess, and the worst thing that ever happened. Because, you know, you got propaganda, all that kind of stuff, which is not so. It's not back in the days where they didn't have cell phones or these apps or anything. It wasn't so. You couldn't really influence people like you could now. Now, you know, you don't even have free thinkers anymore. You just go by what you see and stuff like that now. Some people don't do their research anymore. You know, sometimes, you know, I do the same thing sometimes. Like I'm not above, you know, anybody else, because I do it too, and most people do. That's a human nature. You know, human nature, they always want to take the easy road, and you know, I had no power with that, but it was a good thing that Elon Musk did by Twitter. I think he unbanned he unbanned Donald Trump, and who else? I forgot who else it was, but. All right, yay, you know, Kanye West. So, that was cool. I'm surprised he didn't unban Andrew Tate, who's one of the famous dudes out here in the past 6 months. You know what I mean? I don't know about the code being a common code, because they said I had it, and when I was in the hospital, for a whole almost 2 months in the hospital. You know, they had put me under for 3 weeks and stuff like that, which I could have died from and stuff like that. So I don't know. Me personally, I kind of disagree with that. the jab that came out saying that didn't really work. But yeah, like I totally agree with Andrew Tate. I totally agree with Piers Morgan. I don't think you should censor anybody on their free speech. What else is there? Because shoot, I had a thought in my head. Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, that's what I was saying. Because you're always gonna offend somebody. Like Jordan Peterson said. I mean, when he was talking to what's her name? You know, the lady, he went on news, Kathy Newman, I think, where he said you're always gonna risk offending somebody with your speech, and you know that's okay, but you know free speech is always gonna be a little sensitive because you know when he said they start throwing insults and stuff like that, people, you know what I mean, so it could be sensitive with even with two individuals, you know what I mean, a man or a woman, or woman or women or women, I mean women or men, you know what I mean, so because there's I guess for men it's different because you have a threat of violence. You can't really say things to another man that, you know what I mean, because then you'll end up fighting. I guess women, all right, y'all, let's get back up in here.
It's not the common cold, right? COVID-19 has killed 6.6 million people. It is one of the most deadly viruses, certainly of our lifetime. So it wasn't the common cold, but I do think it is completely justified for people to say we should be more cautious, I think, about accepting during fast-moving pandemics the word of scientists as being sacrosanct, because on a number of things, from the use of masks to the efficacy of vaccines in preventing transmission, they did massive U-turns.
I've read enough history books to know that the people who do the censoring are never the good guys. And they've been censoring a lot of arguments for a very long time in the name of good. They are weaponizing virtue, and it's always in the name of tyranny. Anybody who is out here trying to silence an entire side of an argument on any subject, whether it's COVID-19, immigration, anything else, they are the evil people who are out for absolute mind control of the populace. And they should be feared.
I certainly agree that I think the healthiest thing for any democracy is for all views to be aired and debated. We seem to have lost the ability to debate. You know, when I interviewed you, yeah, we had a few fractious moments, but actually I thought it was a pretty spirited debate between people who perhaps had, preconceived views of each other. And I've got no problem interviewing you now about these because I think you have an interesting take on this stuff.
And that's the key to life. When you reach that level of adolescence in your mindset where you can't handle any point of view that is contrary to your own, then you're truly a broken person. And that's what the internet is purporting. It's very interesting you said about Twitter being tribal. There's a large contingent of people on Twitter who simply cannot handle reading an opinion which differs from their own. And that is a degree of immaturity that we do not need adults to be functioning with in the modern world.
No, I agree. If you were Elon Musk, this idea of charging $8 now a month, whatever it is, to access the blue tick premium Twitter account, would you do that? Would you pay the extra?
I think that social media companies for a very long time have lived in an absolute fantasy where they've printed money from thin air by charging people for pixels. And they grew into these large conglomerates with too many staff sitting around doing nothing, having coffee breaks. And Elon Musk is a businessman. He's walked into the office and he's firing a bunch of people who are messing around doing nothing. And he wants his business to make money, as it absolutely should. And how he decides that happens is his prerogative. I don't see why we should sit and accept that a website needs 200,000 people sitting around discussing in long meetings, sitting on beanbags about policy of human rights of some garbage, when he's come along and said, no, I'm a businessman. We're going to charge for our service. We're going to reduce the number of staff. And we're going to be a functional, coherent company, as they should be. And it's his prerogative to do it, as he's bought the company. I think he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, because I remember the appalling censorship of the New York Post exclusive about Hunter Biden, the son of the president, about his laptop. This is 3 weeks before the election that Joe Biden won. He was heading, to a possible victory, but it was tight. And that story, they reckon, could have tipped it either way. But it was completely suppressed and censored, starting with Twitter, then Facebook, then others. Twitter literally locked out the New York Post account. for 2 weeks for breaking a completely true story. I thought that was shameful.
It's worse than shameful. It's worse than shameful. When you control information, you control the real world. They affect the real world in real time. They are genuinely affecting the reality people live in. They are not just a company. They're not just a social media platform. It affects absolutely every single person on the planet when it changes who is elected. I don't want to comment specifically on Hunter Biden or the laptop. I would never kill myself, but I don't think it's fair that they would hide certain key information that close to an election. And the fact that they've done that was done specifically to affect the world that we all live in. And we all have to suffer the consequences of those things. So to sit and say that these companies can just do whatever they want and they're private, etc. No, free speech is beyond important for democracy. It's important for the reality that we exist under.
Andrew Tate, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, friend.
All right, yeah, that's the end of the video. Yeah, that was a good conversation. Like me, I always say it's always good to have civil discourse. You know what I mean? You don't have to insult each other or anything like that. But civil discourse, where you two had two different opinions on a subject. Like, you know, while I be watching Jubilee, you know, I posted in videos like there was you know, the feminist one and the other ones, and where they came together and they both had they all had a conversation. It wasn't no insults or anything. I mean, some were, you know, passive aggressive. Some of them was, but you know what I mean. That's what I like to see. You know, I don't think you should. I don't think you should censor anybody, you know what I mean? And that's why I be watching these people that be having panels on YouTube and stuff like that. I like to see people different opinions, you know what I mean? And there's some I be like, no, that ain't for me, you know what I mean? And that was messed up about, you know, the Hunter Biden laptop thing. I don't think they should have done that. That's totally wrong. Because they wanted Joe Biden to control that man. That's why they wanted to impeach Donald Trump. Which I don't know. Do you guys? I don't know. Trump is running in 2024. I was watching the news. I was watching CNN, and there was like 63% of people didn't want Donald Trump back. But you know, CNN, you know, they all right, yeah, that's the end of the video. Y'all put your comments in the comment section. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Do you disagree with Andrew Tate? Do you agree with Andrew Tate? Do you know what I mean, do you like him? You know what I mean? Me personally, I like Andrew Tate. I like, you know, what he stands. I like people that stand on what they say. Piers Morgan, he's cool. He's a cool guy. Sometimes he do a little too much, but it looks like he stands on what he said, what he believes in, and you know what I mean. And that's all I can hope for people. You know what I mean. Stand on what you believe. You know what I mean. If you change your mind, you change your mind. But I like people that stand on their morals and their thinking and their opinions. But hey, y'all, I will see you guys on next one on Sides Off in the Fat Man's Podcast. Please hit that like button, the subscribe button, and share this video with everybody you see. But hey, y'all, I'll see you guys on the next one, y'all. Peace out, y'all.